Congressman, good evening, sir.
I'm sorry, I just got to finish my baked beans. They're wicked.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got the story about, look. So, what do you think, by the way, about a school in your district there in Somerville, Massachusetts, banning Thanksgiving?
Only in the People's Republic of Massachusetts.
Listen, I am sorry that I referred to you as the representative from Massachusetts, although I do think they could probably use you up there, Congressman.
I could do them some good. It's actually good to be back in South Texas in a car with Sirius. So I actually listened to the show.
Oh, fantastic! All right, so you heard us talking with Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins about Fast and Furious a little earlier. Let me ask you. I mean, the subpoena has gone out now to Attorney General Eric Holder, and from what I understand, this is the first time that an Attorney General has been subpoenaed like this since you. I mean, you got to go all the way back to Watergate, from what I understand.
And if you look at it, yes, we're treading on relatively new ground. And if you look at it, there's only in the history of the country only been one cabinet-level official impeached. Now, I'm not saying we're going there with Holder, but
But
I
again,
did Google it to see if it had ever happened.
well, I mean, okay, so clearly we are reaching new ground, which again I find it just fascinating that the so many media outlets have ignored this story. I think it's a big deal, regardless of whether or not you're supporting the administration or not. It is a big deal when the Attorney General gets subpoenaed like this.
Well, part of the problem is getting all the background on Fast and Furious. It takes a good 2 to 3 minute setup to do the story and to get all the background on what happened, and that just doesn't play well into the short time segments a lot of the media have.
Yeah.
Plus, you add to it the fact that Holder is now taking forefront on these Iranian guys that were trying to, oddly enough, get the Mexican drug cartels to assassinate the Saudi ambassador, and you got the media switching focus. Instead of talking to Holder and Fast and Furious, they're now talking Holder and terrorists. I'm sure that's not that's entirely coincidental.
So let me pursue this a little bit further, if you don't mind, Congressman, because there has been some speculation. Even the New York Post had an opinion piece pointing out that the arrests were made a couple of weeks ago. And that this individual, this Iranian American who thought he was in contact with the Zeta cartel, from the get-go was in contact with a DEA informant. So it appears as if the actual threat to the ambassadors and the actual threat of a terror attack resulting from this plot was slim to none. Do you believe that the administration brought this out and had the Attorney General do this big press conference in an attempt to try to, excuse me?
Can we talk about that next week? The gentleman involved has a residence in Corpus Christi, which is the city that I represent.
Yeah.
And I have some meetings with some local law enforcement people this week that what I'm hearing through the grapevine is that, this guy was a used car salesman.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
So I want to get all the facts together. But,
sure.
The I don't want to step in it detector is starting to move out of green into yellow.
Okay, all right, yeah, then absolutely. When you've got more that you can share with us, then I would love to talk with you about it.
Yeah, I don't want to idly speculate.
Sure.
But I obviously talk to law enforcement back home, and we're going to talk a lot more this week.
All right, well, to that end, let's talk about some of the things that we do know within the subpoena. It struck me, Congressman, that in addition to asking for any and all relevant documents related to Fast and Furious, there were some specific instances that your colleague Representative Issa honed in on, including a possible meeting between the former, at the time, he would have been the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, Carlos Pascual, and Lanny Brewer, the Deputy Attorney General, the head of the criminal division. Any communication between Eric Schultz, a White House staffer, and DOJ regarding how to talk about Fast and Furious. It seems to me, Representative, that you guys have an idea of what you're looking for here. You've honed in on a few things.
We've got a great staff at the Committee on Government Oversight and Reform, and now the Judiciary Committee is starting to look into this as well. And Yeah, you look at the list of items that were subpoenaed. I think somebody smells a trail there.
I think you're right. Now, there was news today that perhaps a DOD or a DOD tie as well. Some documents are requested from the DOD. Representative Issa has said that he also wants to look into an operation out of Columbus, New Mexico, that involved the mayor there and the chief of police and a couple of other high-ranking local officials. Is it your belief that there were operations similar to Fast and Furious that were taking place outside of the Phoenix area?
My hope is that they're not, because the whole Fast and Furious thing was, I think Chairman Issa refers to it as felony stupid. And, you'd hope we're not making that mistake over and over again. But it's not beyond the realm of possibility. I continue, whenever I'm questioning witnesses on the committee, I ask if they're aware of any similar operations. And, at least in public testimony, none have surfaced. There have been reports a few years back that some Texas gun dealers had concerns that they had passed along to ATF, but I think it was handled a little bit better here in Texas.
Yeah, well, and that's, it's interesting because now you've got the Associated Press talking about a couple of operations done during the Bush administration, and they always, they're very quick to say very similar to Fast and Furious, and then when you start reading about it, like the one that they reported on today, Mexican law enforcement was made aware of this. That didn't happen in Fast and Furious. They were told, all right, you got guns coming your way. That didn't happen in Fast and Furious. Talking about a couple of hundred firearms, I think, over the entire course of the investigation, as opposed to 10 times that amount in Fast and Furious. Is the Obama administration leaking this information, you think, in an attempt to try to deflect the blame?
Well, the blame Bush strategy has been the go-to answer to any problem that pops up in this administration. So it wouldn't surprise me.
All right. So what's the next step? I mean, now that the subpoena has been handed to the Attorney General, obviously you've got to give the DOJ some time to fulfill the document request.
Yeah, it's a big request. A lot of it is electronic documents and emails that they ought to be able to recover relatively quickly. But, of course, they're going to end up vetting it. And my fear is we end up with reams and reams of paper that are nothing but blacked out, redacted paragraphs like we got the first time we started requesting information on this. And, you would think that our government officials would learn from history that it's not the actual act that gets you, it's always the cover-up that gets you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go back to Watergate, it was the cover-up that got them.
Right. And again, I mean, you look at what we're seeing now here, Attorney General Holder walking away from the microphone when he's asked about Fast and Furious. The letter that he sent to Representative Issa and Senator Grassley last week, in which he continued to insist that while he may have gotten these weekly briefings about Fast and Furious, his staff is supposed to let him know if there's anything untoward. I got to tell you, Representative, just from a media perspective, this is frustrating. I can't imagine how frustrating it is to actually be on the committee that is trying to do this investigation. And on the one hand, you have the Attorney General saying that, yes, mistakes were made. We're going to be dealing with the mistakes for years to come. But on the other hand, what you're doing is just partisan political hackery, and we should pay no attention to it whatsoever.
Well, you have got to investigate these things. Again, people ask me why the mainstream media isn't picking up. You asked me that just a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
But you think back to history, and you look at Watergate. The Washington Post would just do a story here and a story there every couple of weeks, and it just takes time for the investigation to go and for the story to get momentum. But it's we are the Woodward and Bernsteins of this era, pursuing the truth.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Representative, I'm so glad you could join us tonight, sir. Thank you again for your time. Hope you have a good weekend back in the district, and I look forward to talking again very soon.
Always fun to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Congressman Blake Farenthold joining us from the great state of Texas tonight.